Oh, terrific, mate. Terrific. Fine, Joe's handling the alcohol water, which is just cleaned up. Yeah, I saw Joe just
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to hand over to Claire Szabo, as you'll be aware, the President of the New Zealand Labour Party. She's going to give some opening remarks and then we'll open up for questions. Claire.
Thank you. The Labour Party has received the report from Maria Dew, QC, following her investigation of complaints against a former Labour Party staff member. The report is clear that the most serious allegations, those of sexual assault, were not established. Other allegations of sexual harassment were also found not to be established. Some allegations that related to overbearing and aggressive conduct were found to be established, but were found not to meet the threshold of unlawful bullying. Overall, Ms. Dew's conclusion was that the investigation did not find any misconduct or serious misconduct that would warrant disciplinary action. Ms. Dew has recommended that the respondent be advised that his conduct did not meet the expectations of courtesy and respect required by the Code of Conduct. Two further reports, one examining the Labour Party's handling of the complaints and another that recommends how the party improves its processes for managing such matters in the future, are close to completion. This process has taken a toll on all those involved. That's why it's so important that the party has in place professional processes to deal with complaints that ensure everyone is treated fairly and appropriately. I would like to acknowledge the discomfort and distress that these matters have caused a number of our people, particularly the complainants, the respondent, and their families. I thank them for their participation in the investigation. It is now time for us to get on with applying the lessons that we have learned.
happy to take questions.
Are
Oh, look.
you confident, is this the right decision to release this report? Some of the complainants have been telling us they're extremely distressed that the party is releasing the executive.
You know, I think ideally none of this would have been dealt with in this way. Best practice, of course, would have said that we should have had processes in place that would have never had this dealt with in the public domain. I don't think that's been in anyone's best interest. We've been very conscious of people's well-being, all parties, the complainant, the respondent, all the way through, and being very clear, the full report will not be released, should not be released. But of course, there was an expectation that some indication of the conclusions that would be reached would be, but maintaining the privacy of the individuals involved has been incredibly important, as has ensuring that there's support around all those who have been affected by this issue.
When you met with them, can you tell us about the meetings that you've had
No.
one-on-one with those complainants?
No.
Were any MPs part of the interviews that Maria Drew refers to through senior party members?
Again, the only elements of the report that we'll be disclosing are the elements that are in the public domain, the executive summary. We do have in place other processes to look into the way that we as a party handled this issue. I think it's clear to everyone that this has not been best practice. It's caused harm to a number of people. No one has been well served by what has happened here. Yeah, Katie. Oh, look, this has only just been released. You'll recall that that staff member resigned, but I have no further indication or information around that person's status at this point in time, so it would be purely speculative. But as I say, just a reminder that that was their decision at that time. I'll come to Jane and then I'll come back round to Toba.
Response to the report in terms of, I suppose, the political controversy and the impact on Labour and other people involved?
You know, actually in all of this, and you will have heard me say this at the party conference, this needs to be about people. It shouldn't be viewed with a political lens. Now, we are, by our very nature, obviously we're a political organisation, but our responsibility has to be looking after our people. No one has been served by what's happened here. We've learnt from it. We know there are changes that we need to make, but the last thing I'm going to do is dwell on political impacts because that's just not the primary focus and it's just not appropriate.
Complainants told us that your office was asked not to release this executive summary and that the support teams around them had asked not to release this executive summary because of the distress of the cause.
And all the way through this, we've been very, very mindful of the well-being of all parties, making sure that they have the support that they need. And as I've already said, actually no one is well served by the fact that this has been in the public domain throughout. We've got to try and get back to best practice. But of course, this has been in the public domain. We've tried to prove... And as I've said, I've acknowledged that that should have never had to have been the case. This process has poorly served everyone. Harm has been done to everyone involved. Now it's time for us to draw a line in the sand and to try and get back to best practice because that hasn't been the case here.
I understand you can't go into too much detail
No.
of the report, but that critical email that one of the complainants said was sent to Diane Lacey and to Simon Mitchell that was presented during her panel investigation. Can you explain what happened there? Perhaps it was providing misleading information for the investigation about that email. Can you explain how that happened?
Again, I'm just going to let the report stand, let the report speak for itself. We are not here to seek blame, to seek malice. We are here to try and restore a process that should have been in place in the first place. We don't want any more harm done by this situation. It's time for us to draw a line in the sand and start trying to look after our Labour members. At the time that Nigel resigned, he was very clear that the basis on which he was resigning was so that someone in leadership, in a new leadership position, could try and take forward learnings from what has happened here. I think that was an honourable decision at that time, and I think that remains an honourable decision.
Are you confident that the broader situation, the way it was handled, the broader handling of it by the Labour Party, are you confident that this will never happen again?
Oh, well, that's what we have to reassure ourselves by the work that we're doing now as an organisation. And, you know, that has to be our aspiration. All right. Yeah. And again, I stand by everything that I said at the time of the Labor Party conference. You know, we have to make sure that we are an organisation where people feel able to raise issues, be it of sexual harassment, be it of bullying behaviour, feel like it's a safe place that they can do that, and feel assured that there'll be a professional process that will look into any such allegations. You know, that's actually the challenge for a range of different employment voluntary organisations, and of course it's incumbent on us to make sure we achieve that. We haven't to date. We know we can and must do better. Okay, last, yeah.
They say that they stand by everything that they said.
Mm.
And yet listen.
And look, ultimately, the reason we brought someone independent in was to allow the facts to be looked at by someone external to anyone within the Labor Party. I'm not going to get into elements of the report. I'll just leave it as it stands. Now, our job is to make sure that our organisation, the Labor Party, is in much better shape to deal with these issues in the future, because no one has been well served by what has happened here. Again, you know, there's explanation around the conclusion that has been reached by Maria Ju QC, and I'll leave it at that. Okay, thanks everyone.